let's talk to Nick in Tennessee. Nick, you're live with Eric and V. What would you like to talk about today?
Hey, so it's I guess a bit of a weird topic, but
What's all right? What's up?
like useful takes on old religious and pagan practices from other cultures and ways of thinking and stuff.
Okay.
Sure. Like what?
Yeah, give us an example.
Well, like I've talked on several occasions about like meditation, mindfulness, and things like that. And it got me wondering, like, what other things might be, I guess, more universally useful. Stuff like a deeper appreciation for nature. And like for me personally, I had a brief pagan stint between my Christianity and atheism. And it led me to like appreciating the power of a storm or the strength of a tree, things like that, that kind of remind me that my influence on the world is very little, and that I can let more things go and be kind of out of my hands.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? What does the pagan belief do to help you appreciate nature versus appreciating nature as a secular person?
Well, yeah, like I said, I'm not pagan. Yeah. But it was like during that time that I first started to look at that, because as a Christian, the storm was just, either God's wrath or a force of nature that didn't mean anything. But I guess it's just the lens, the way of looking at it, or the way to think about things.
Well, yeah, we absorb and understand our world through stories. And that is for some reason the preferred way that our brains take stuff in. And so if we are focusing on stories about nature and stories that connect us to nature, it is going to be a lot easier to appreciate nature, as opposed to, did you know the average rainfall is, this amount of inches per quarter? Or, they're fun. Stats are fun and they're useful and they shouldn't be discounted. But when it comes to evoking a change in perspective, a lot of the time it needs to come alongside stories and mythology. And you can appreciate that and use it as a tool without necessarily suspending your critical thinking, or actually believing these things to be true, right? So I think that, I mean, personally for me, a couple of weeks ago, I did a tarot card reading on C'est la vie for the people in the live chat, and they were asking me questions, and I was pulling a card and giving them an answer based on, the traditional meaning of the card. And the whole time I was also explaining, hey, this is a Barnum statement. This is going to apply to everyone who gets this card because it sounds nice and you want it to apply to yourself. Or sometimes, I pulled this card. I don't think it's useful, so I'm going to make something up on the spot inspired by the card. And so I'm not even going to go off of what is traditionally meant by this. So I was explaining how it worked to people. And it still helped some people, right? It still gave some people an opportunity to think about things in a different way. That doesn't mean that they believed the card was magic, because I was actively dispelling that the entire time. But they were able to look at a problem with a new perspective.
I guess the question is this are you asking about this because you see kind of this pragmatic approach to looking at things through a different lens, or are you propping up the idea that people should believe this to be true? Like, are you asking about the lens,
like the first one.
The first one?
The lens, the way of kind of taking the practices, not necessarily the beliefs, and seeing if those practices, if they meant something to you, like in the case of tarot or other divination.
That's fine.
As a way to
just so long as people know that they're stories, I mean, that's fine. I find reading the Brothers Grimm was interesting. There are a lot of fairy tales that have lessons, just so long as we don't kind of blur the line between propping up ideas that are based on bad reasoning and finding lessons in stories that we know are fictitious. You know what I mean? So yeah, as long as we're on the same page there, then we're good, man.
I know this reminds me of a conversation that I had with somebody over email. They emailed Talk Heathen, and they were asking me specifically, because I am the one who talks a little bit about, secular witchcraft and all of that. He was like, hey, my daughter wants to watch the Harry Potter movies or read or some fantasy series. And I'm concerned about letting her do that because there's magic in it. And we don't believe in magic in this house. I don't want her to, have magical thinking incorporated into her diet necessarily. And it just struck me. And my response was, that sounds very Christian of you to say, I don't want my child to read Harry Potter because there's magic in it. Yeah. Like the whole reason that we are skeptics and the whole reason that I love where I am now is because I don't have that concept of I can't do this, I can do that, I shouldn't look at that because it's going to be, threatening to my worldview. It's fun, right? It's fun to watch. It's fun to experience. You can get a lot from it. It's just, it's a book, it's a movie, it's mythology, it's a pattern of thinking, it's a ritual, and the tools themselves are not powerful or magical. It's what you give to them that makes them useful or not.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree, and was kind of looking for if y'all had any ideas or things from, because I know both of y'all were at one point Christian and grew out of that. And I was wondering if there were anything that from your history that you've kind of put in a secular light and kept with you. Mm-hmm. Because I know, like, for me, when I was moving out of religion, there was like a great sense of loss, kind of like that everything I had was falling away, and I was trying to find something to keep. And looking back, if I had a better idea of, hey, take the idea of tithing, and instead of giving it to God, give it to charity, or the idea of fasting, and instead of taking stop eating for a week or month or whatever, and instead abstain from drugs or alcohol or whatever else that might possibly have an influence over your life. Kind of putting those Christian ideas or those religious ideas into a secular light to make use of them as an atheist.
I think that's great. I've done exactly the same thing. I've done that. My tithe, I calculated how much a tithe would have been based on my income right now, and I'm giving that to American Atheists every month. And I did exactly the same thing. And here's the point that I want to drill home here before we move on, and that's people say, well, religion can be beneficial, right? Religion gives us all of these things. And I agree with that. It does. We just don't need the religion part. And so taking those things that it does give us and does provide an outlet for, it teaches us how to be mindful about certain things or how to, practice self-control in certain areas. That's all great. Let's do that. And let's do that as secular people so that when people come to us and say, well, you can't do this, this, and this without religion, you just look at your life and say, well, I'm doing all of those things. I just don't need that God belief to kind of hold it all together.
Yeah.
So
we're on the same page, man.
Sounds good. It's an interesting topic. But that said, I think we're going to move on to the next call. Is there anything else that you wanted to ask before we go?
One quick question, kind of directed at you, Eric.
What's that?
And it's a bit more lighthearted, but I know you've said before that you play D&D, right?
Yeah.
Okay. As an atheist, have you... do you find any kind of influence or kind of irony in some of the characters, some of the stuff you play? Like, I find myself obsessed with paladins because they're so fucking confident. And it's like,
actually, that's the thing is I am playing a paladin right now.
Right.
So the interesting thing about D&D is that is actually a universe where gods exist, and people see them and interact with them. And because of that, and because there are so many instances and occasions that it's very clearly seen that gods walk among people, that I don't think it's a hard pull. I don't think it's a hard push. I'm currently the chosen warrior of a trickster god, and it is a lot of fun. So yeah, absolutely. it's definitely given me a fresh look on how to treat deities. And I think that anybody who wants to kind of play with those ideas, and just like y'all were talking about, have a new outlook on that, D&D is a really good one.
I agree.
Yeah.
I've also found the Bible stories that I'm familiar with have made very interesting philosophical and quests for the players. Like I have my wife is playing a
Nick. I would love to continue this conversation on Discord.
It sounds like a Discord.
Yeah, but this isn't a good format for this. This is a conversation
sorry.
less of a Q&A back and forth kind of thing. But thank you for calling in, man. I hope to see you in the Discord.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Thanks for helping us kill some time too, Nick.
Absolutely.